Assalamu alaikum. Let us begin. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulihil Kareem Muhammad wa ba'd. Welcome to the channel. You know, this is the first time that we have recorded in a while, and we hadn't gone live since the month of Ramadan. We thank all of you all for your support throughout the month of Ramadan, not only in your attending the Ramadan lecture series that we had, but all of your generous donations and also just words of encouragement for the work that we're doing. This is really the second channel, the what we named the Qur'an study channel. And we had really gotten off the ground right before the month of Ramadan. The other channel that we have that goes under the name, my name, Rashad Abdul Rahman, we wanted to sort of keep that channel focused on addressing issues like really Al-Islam in its address to the challenges of Black America, first and foremost. Sometimes and historically, we've gotten into political issues, we've gotten into other things. Because obviously the African American community in general, the African American Muslim community, we don't live in a vacuum. We're a part of the world. So we do touch upon other topics, but that's the main focus. And because of that, we wanted to give a particular focus to just the study of the Quran. Obviously, to study the Quran, there has to be a serious appreciation for the prophetic tradition, the tradition of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there has to also be respect for the tradition of the Muslim scholars in the fields of law, in the field of Aqidah or Kalam, the science of Tawheed, etc., let alone spirituality and the ethics, so on and so forth. But the primary thrust and the primary focus that we have for this channel is the study of the Quran. So we are actually going to introduce a new series, and that's what we're doing today with this particular recording. We're going to introduce a new series centered on the study of the Quran, and what I want to do is share some notes from our study, a study that I did on this book. I've mentioned this before, maybe on this channel, maybe on another channel. This is the translation of a text, Fawz ul-Kabeer fi usul tafsir. The great victory in the, how would we call this, the theory or the principles or the methodology of exegesis. Tafsir is the explanation of the Quran. Usul tafsir is the methodology, the science, the scientific method of how the approach to commentary on the Quran takes place. This is a book that I studied, and it is written by the author Shah Waliullah, one of the great reformers of the subcontinent. And this book, to me, is it was just is very impressive, and it really simplified or helped me to have a better understanding of the approach to the study of the Quran, particularly from my experience, how I studied, who my teacher was and is. And I really, the author of this particular book, in his approach, really resonated with me. So what we'll be doing, I have several other books that I want to cover, but I'm going to cover not this book line by line, but just some main points that I think will be of benefit, to be of assistance to those of us who want to become connected to the Quran. I'll offer my own reflections, my own thoughts on some of the points being made, and we'll proceed from there. And this will be a part of the focus of the channel. It's not the only focus, but this is one of the main series that we will undergo. We also want to continue with our Quran study as we did in the month of Ramadan. And we really want to do something like for members, those who join our study group. We want to really initiate a study group, a membership-based study group type situation. And those who would like to join us, feel free. It's going to be open to you, inshallah. But let's begin. Most of the time, when the teachers, no, all of the time, they're very big on the history of the particular author. When they start a book, they go into who the author is, his history, how he came up, his story, etc. And I advise you all to just look up these great minds, these great teachers in the Islamic tradition. That's just a part of the way. These are the heroes of Islam, so to speak, and they're all over the globe. They're from West Africa all the way, as I mentioned, to the subcontinent, all the way to South Africa, all the way to Malaysia. Allah has blessed the Ummah over the generations with many brilliant minds and beautiful souls and spirits. But just to get to the premise of this book, the particular author, he was convinced of something. He was looking at the state of the Muslims in the world and in his part of the world at that time, and he saw them differing upon theological lines, jurisprudential or madhab baselines, let alone the extremities in terms of the different schools of tasawwuf or Sufism, as is popularly known in the West, going to extremes in spirituality, and basically political corruption and the weakness of religious leadership because of their inability to stand upon sound principles, even when it comes to corrupt political leadership, so on and so forth. So one of the things that he was questioning was, what is the cause of the melees? What is the cause of the problems facing the Muslim Ummah? And one of the conclusions that he drew is that the Muslim Ummah had fallen out of touch with the Quran. And the Quran, as a book, as a whole, the Quran, its true purpose, its true value had been lost. And a part of that is because the approach to its study and its understanding had become lost. And this is something that, even to be perfectly honest, as I understand it, later thinkers, like for example, someone like Muhammad Asad, who did a translation of the Quran, I don't know if he's considered more of a modernist thinker. He took the position about the law of Islam that, and he was echoing some of the more recent scholars from the Muslim world, that the law and theology, the belief system, theology is not really an Islamic term because we don't feel Allah, we don't study God, but the study of the names of Allah, the attributes of Allah, His works, and what He reveals about Himself, and then the logic from a textual basis, and then also the system of reasoning to support our beliefs about God, let alone the other articles of faith. That's what we call theology, aqidah in the term, or kalam on a more advanced level, of the science of tawheed. But anyway, his position was that these disciplines of knowledge, Muhammad Asad, have become so dense by way of scholarship and argumentation back and forth, etc., that the average Muslim is out of touch, or is left in a position where he or she is out of touch with the plain common sense guidance that the Quran offers. Another author that I really am fond of, Azhari scholar, he passed away recently, may Allah forgive him his sins and grant him paradise, Sheikh Alwani, Taha Alwani, and his position was that something very similar had occurred with the Muslim mind. The Muslim mind had become stagnated because the categories of law and theology, etc., became these very rigid categories in which the religion was understood, and that was it. And consequently, the Ummah had lost touch with, or it has lost touch with, the connectivity with the Quran as a book that guides civilization as a whole. Meaning that, yes, it does cover belief. Yes, it does cover law, but it covers ethics. It covers history. It covers the sciences, or at least it gives the keys to open up the doorway to the sciences. It even invites us, or it imparts to us, certain ideals and principles that open us up to higher levels of artistic expression, etc., etc. In other words, the Quran is a book for the whole life of man. And because the human being, like human beings in society, are diverse, some of us are more artistic, some of us are more analytical, some of us are politically drawn, some of us are militarily drawn, depending upon what we are. The Quran has something in it for all of us. In other words, all of these types of human expression, they are expressions of the soul, and the Quran is revealed in its light, in its guidance is for the human soul as a whole. Therefore, all of these aspects of human soul expression can be fed by the Quran. But the Quran, so the argument goes, has not been presented that way. So that's one. And then another imam I remember taking this was my actually first class in traditionally. I studied with Imam W.D. Muhammad, and we would go through the Quran, etc. My first academic class from a traditional lens, we were studying the book Aqidah Tahawi, the Tahawi Creed. And I remember the teacher saying at that particular moment, he asked the question sort of rhetorically, what is the best book on Aqidah, belief, the beliefs that we are tied to, and it binds us together? What's the best book? He said, the Quran. What's the best book on law? The Quran. What is the best book on spirituality? The Quran. He's saying this himself. He said, and to be honest, I don't know why the tradition developed the way it is, but we don't go there first. However, this is the tradition, and we begin to proceed in that route. And I guess this is sort of me just giving introductory thoughts on why I'm even going in this direction. I was fortunate enough, as I just mentioned, to study with Imam Muhammad, may Allah forgive him his sins and grant him paradise. And he was really a Quran-based teacher. And a part of his methodology, if I can put it in those terms, he would actually say this: I am showing you all how to read the Quran. He really situated us to become researchers and thinkers within the context of the text of the Quran. So many of the positions and opinions that you will hear me say, like I'm going to read from the authors and we'll go through other points, but a lot of my position or the way in which I perceive what is being said is through the lens of that particular methodology. And I think that one of the things that he said to us, which I think is of immense importance, is that he hoped for the day where the Muslims in America, particularly the quote unquote indigenous population, will become free thinkers in al-Islam. To be a free thinker, however, does not mean that this is thought absent methodology. This does not mean that this is thought absent respect for that which has already been thought of and achieved and that has been developed. No, the free thinker is engaging in the best of the insights, in the best of the methods. He's understanding what has gone before him, and he is critically giving analysis, asking questions, and searching further, because the cause of truth lasts forever. So he's searching for more and more truth. And in other words, how I understand it, and I can be wrong, his interest for students that came up under him was that they do not let their minds be molded and formed by their studies of the religion, not let their minds be molded and formed by the books, and that be it. Let their minds definitely feed upon what has been written, but let their mind be molded and formed by, number one, Allah's word directly. Number two, their obedience to Allah's word and their obedience to the prophetic tradition. And perhaps Allah would open us up, give us openings and more insights into what He has revealed in the Quran. So I'm looking at my time here. I see I've already gone a little bit further than I wanted to, because I want to keep these relatively short. I don't want to burden the lesson per se, but I did believe that that particular introductory was absolutely necessary for us to just know where we're going to be going in the coming days, inshallah. So I'll stop here, and then we'll deal with sort of like part one in the next video. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.